Dricus du Plessis is getting cooked as UFC fans react to Khamzat Chimaev's recent training footage. You already know how I feel. Khamzat beats everybody. Also, Dana White goes off after the latest UFC rankings show John Jones is ranked number 2 in the pound-for-pound rankings. It's absolutely ridiculous. We got these two topics and many more next on the TCMMA podcast.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
Welcome to the TCMMA podcast. I'm Chris Cross. In our first story, UFC fans react to seeing Khamzat Chimaev's new training footage by saying DDP, Dricus du Plessis, is getting cooked. And again, you already know how I feel, right? Khamzat is the best in the world, number 1 on the do list, not quite a pound for pound list, but just my favorite fighters combined with pound for pound. But I believe Khamzat beats everyone. If he fights John Jones a year from now in the heavyweight division, he beats him. You can call me crazy, but I've been saying this from the beginning, and every time he fights, he continues to back it up. If you don't believe me, just go back to the recent Robert Whittaker submission in the first round and all the noise that fans were talking about leading into that fight. This is when Khamzat's getting beat. Oh, really? Well, he's training with a new team in the Russian mountains, at least for the last fight, and he looked phenomenal. So, according to DDP on Submission Radio, he says it's going to be absolute chaos. I just think I don't see coming in with a different game plan, and me neither. Meaning Khamzat won't have a different game plan, either will DDP. He also goes on to say, I'm not going out to defend Khamzat's takedowns. That's a mistake. I'm going there to attack. And, okay, maybe that makes sense, because everyone that tries to work on takedown defense, it doesn't work because Khamzat is just too good. So maybe DDP has something here, but it's not going to matter. I do respect DDP on some level because, you know, John Jones will take the Stipe fight. So if this was John Jones, he's going to take the Sean Strickland fight right now, make Khamzat wait a year. That's what's happening to Tom Aspinall. But not DDP. He's like, hey, bring on the best. I'll prove that I'm the best. Now, I don't think the fight goes his way, clearly. But at the same time, the dude deserves mad respect. And we say this about guys like Robert Whittaker, right? Had every possibility to get out of that fight and go in a different direction after Khamzat dropped out. He says, no, I still want that fight. And he took the L, but he took the fight. So that's what's important. And DDP is kind of in the same boat. He's going to do the same thing. He wants the biggest and best fight. Make no mistake about it. But UFC fans react by saying DDP is going to get cooked. And I agree with him. DDP, you're in trouble, man. Good luck. Khamzat is coming. Do we have a fight date yet? Do we have a fight scheduled? No, we do not. But the bottom line is, when they do fight, that's going to be a holiday for me, because it's going to be time for Khamzat to capture the belt. And I thought we'd have to see one more fight, but it seems like this is on the horizon. So we're 6 months or less away from Khamzat Chimaev holding up the belt. And that'll be the greatest day in UFC history as a fan for me. I cannot wait. I wish it was tomorrow. But you know what? We waited this long. We've been waiting since 2019, 2020. We waited this long. We can wait another 6 months if we got to. And I'm sure the fans relate to that. We do what we got to do. So more to come on that fight. Former UFC champions return in the works for Saudi Arabian event. And I was surprised when I saw this one, because you got Israel Adesanya set to take on Nazardine Imavov. Potentially on the February 1st card set for the venue in Saudi Arabia. This is the same place that Golden Boy Promotions had Latino night boxing card recently. So same venue. Who cares about that? The bottom line is Adesanya looks like he's going to return, and he's going to fight a Mavov, and this is a fight that he will win, and he better win, because he will be fighting down. And this is a Colby Covington type situation where let me face someone that I believe I can beat to get back to the top. In reality, if Khamzat is going to fight DDP, and we don't know that to be a fact yet because you got Sean Strickland out there. Who's Sean Strickland going to fight? Should be Izzy. Adesanya should be fighting Strickland. So Strickland's out on an island right now if Khamzat and DDP fight and Adesanya and a Mavov fight. So this is, all part of the same conversation. It's something we got to keep an eye on as, how is the middleweight division going to take shape over these next scheduled fights. Moving on, the UFC scores a landmark AI deal with IBM. This is huge. And speaking with MMA Media, and I'm not sure who this is. I'll figure it out. This partnership with IBM, I think it's Dana White. This partnership with IBM is one of the most significant milestones for UFC and a game changer for how fans will experience our sport. Oh no, this is from Grant Norris-Jones, head of global partnerships at TKO. Please forgive me. IBM is an iconic blue-chip global brand with decades of experience in sports marketing. Together, we're pioneering a product to revolutionize analytics and information in live sports. This partnership marks a pivotal win, not only for UFC and IBM, but also for fans around the world who will experience our sport in a whole new way. And, as I read more about this, there's going to be a lot of stuff in fight where you can predict it's going to predict who's going to win, how, based on how the fight's going. You're probably going to get all these type of predictions before the fight happens. And, how do you compete with AI? Like if you're me and you're just making predictions, there's still got to be a human element, right? Because AI is actually probably going to do a lot of the same things I do because I strictly look at the numbers, but there's still a human element there. And sometimes I look at a guy and I say, you know what, he doesn't have the numbers, but he's got the heart. He's going to find a way to win. And sometimes I'm wrong for that. So maybe AI is a good thing, but there's also sometimes I'm right. Sometimes you go against the numbers and you're right. AI is going to make its predictions off of a lot more information, stats, all these other things. Things will be changing in real time, so it will be interesting. But the bottom line is AI is coming, for better or for worse. I think in terms of the UFC, it'll be a good thing. I know I'll utilize it for the picks and the predictions. Doesn't mean I'm always going to go with AI, but it is good for insight and things of that nature. But I still think the human element of making predictions is very important. I mean, AI can't be right 100% of the time. Nothing will, ever, when it comes to making predictions. So as we move forward, a couple other stories going on in the world of the UFC. One of the biggest ones today, I mean, outside of DDP and Khamzat, of course, is Dana White explodes after Jon Jones fails to claim top spot in UFC pound-for-pound rankings, saying, I have to get rid of these clowns. Dana White wrote, talking about Zuckerberg, let's get this AI deal done ASAP. So, again, still with the AI. Now in terms of Dana White and the UFC rankings, AI doing the rankings, yeah, I think it's time to make some moves away from the human element in that area. Because, when you're doing predictions, it's fun because you're not supposed to be right 100% of the time. When you're doing rankings, you're supposed to be right. And when you see like a guy like Jon Jones, who's been a light heavyweight champ and now the heavyweight champ, he should be number one. Next is another guy who held two belts, Alex Pereira, middleweight and light heavyweight. The only reason he's below Jon Jones is simply because he's actually lost a fight for real. Like he got KO'd by Izzy in his last middleweight fight. And then Islam Makhachev. Now, if Islam can go up and win the welterweight title and never lose, then he jumps to 2. But that's just how I see it, right? But you got a lot of other people, making these picks. And how do you look at Jon Jones and say you're not number one? He never lost the light heavyweight belt. He's the only current person to have held 2 belts and never lost one of them. I'm with Dana White on this 100%. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he's doing this stuff at 37 years old. And yeah, I think he should have fought Tom Aspinall. And yeah, I'll be a harsh critic on that. But the bottom line is, he may never fight Tom Aspinall. You have to look at the pound-for-pound rankings as of today. And I get it. They don't want to put John Jones at 1 because this guy might not fight for a year and a half. Then you got to start sliding him down and all this stuff, and it creates a problem. So who knows? That's the only negative part about AI doing the rankings is, will it take into consideration that a guy hasn't fought in a year, 2, 3 years? Is it going to leave guys up there just because they didn't say the words retire and they're just lingering around? Right? What if Conor McGregor didn't come back and lose those fights, and we're still looking at Conor McGregor just with the Khabib loss, right? And then he doing what he does now and saying, I'm coming back, I'm going to fight. Oh, I'm injured. My toe's injured. And then I'm coming back next year. And so he's never really leaving, but he's not really back. What would AI do with him in that situation? Right? And that's just an example. Don't get caught up in just McGregor. I'm just saying, you have these figures that kind of linger around, but they never fight. So how does AI? So there's just a lot of things. The human element's going to start removing John Jones if you don't fight in a year. It's going to totally remove Conor McGregor from the rankings if you don't fight in a year or 2. So, that's the human element. How the AI element will work, we don't know. But one thing we do know is it's out of human hands. And when you're dealing with things like that, that's important. When you're dealing with the judges, that's important. And, they may talk about AI with judging eventually, but the bottom line is I think you just need to have a point system like every other sport on earth. At the end of an NFL game, whoever has the most points wins. Basketball, the same. Baseball, the most runs wins. Hockey, the most goals wins. Soccer, same thing. UFC, 3 people decide the fate of the fight. And often, we're left upset unless it's just clear that you can see and know who won. If it goes to a split decision, half the people are going to agree, half are going to disagree. We need a point system that we can watch on the screen as the clock is running out and knowing who wins. That's just how it needs to go. And we might get lucky. Every once in a while, the points will switch hands in the final seconds. You'll see one guy, we see this all the time. Guys look great in round 3, come back and dominate, end up leading the fight in the stats, and they lose 2 rounds to 1. But if you had a point system, they win. So there's just a lot of things that AI can do. And only time will tell how that's going to work out. So let's get into UFC Macau. We didn't talk about this earlier in the podcast. Of course, it's in the title. UFC Macau in China goes down this Saturday, not night, but this Saturday. It starts at 3 a.m. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if I'm getting up that early, but I'll be up around 4, 5, or 6. Make sure I'm up for the main card. So, but there will be some interesting fights that we all need to see. Like there's 3 Road to UFC finals here in China. The main card is looking interesting. Like the first fight we're going to get into today, you got Vulcan Oezdemir, 20-7, taking on Carlos Olberg, 11-1. This is Switzerland versus New Zealand. Again, light heavyweight division. It's a big time fight. Olberg is more than a 2-1 favorite, but I'll tell you what, Vulcan is a bad dude, man. Don't count this guy out. Let's begin with this prediction first and foremost. In the light heavyweight division at UFC Macau, it's going down. You got Vulcan Oezdemir taking on Carlos Olberg. We got it's 11-1, right? So he's kind of a veteran now, right? 12 fights in. Olberg 6'4", 2 inches taller than Oezdemir, or Odemir, however you want to say it. Oezdemir's 1 year older at 35. He's given up 2 inches in reach to Olberg. Both guys stand right-handed. Olberg 7.4 significant strikes per minute to 4.8 for Oezdemir. So, Olberg's kind of fast-paced, very active on the feet. 1 takedown every 3 rounds to go with it. Vulcan, 80% takedown defense. So it's going to play out on the feet more than likely. Now, Vulcan KO Johnny Walker, first round. Wow. Bogdan Guskov, submission, first round. He's won The last two lost to Nikita Krylov before that by decision, but looking good in the last two. Olberg looks good all the time, almost. He's won the last 6 fights, all by finish, except one. The last 5 have been by finish, so it's unbelievable how this guy has dominated, beating Alonzo Menefield, Da Woon Jung, Ihor Potieria, Nikolai Negumereanu. I mean, just dominant. Only one of the last 4 fights got out, or out, one of the last 5 fights has gotten out of the first round, and that was Da Woon Jung. So listen, Carlos Olberg has looked really good so far. Vulcan is really good too. This is a very tough fight to predict, but I got to go with Olberg, man. I just got to believe that every time we see him, he's still getting better. You know, he's 34 years old, so he's still kind of in that prime window, but he's young still as a fighter too. So I still think he's learning and growing. So with that being said, I think every time we see him, he's going to be even better. And as good as Vulcan is, and as hard it is to go against him, I still got to. Olberg wins this thing to move to 12-1, mainly on the feet. He'll outstrike Vulcan. Probably goes the distance. But either way, Olberg wins. In my opinion, light heavyweight division, UFC Macau. Yeah, and that's a tough prediction because Vulcan is the real deal. Right? He's really good. I've seen him KO people. I'm like, holy cow. But Olberg right now just seems to be on a different level. Right? I mean, Olberg 11-1, so he does have that one loss. Right? That could loom large in this fight. The odds could be wrong here. I'm not 100% confident Olberg wins. I mean, it's not like Ozdemir's old. It's 35-year-old versus 34-year-old. Olberg has less fights, less experience. But the guy is very active on the feet. And I like that. And Vulcan is not very active with takedowns. So that gives Olberg even a better chance because that's not going to be a threat in this fight. So I got no choice when it comes down to it but to go with Carlos Olberg to take this thing. Now, as we work our way up, in the next one, you got Wang Kong versus Gabriela Fernandez. And if you don't remember Wang Kong, now she gets to fight in China in her UFC debut. Huge first round KO, which you don't see a lot in the women's division, in the women's divisions, especially this one, right? So she comes in and makes a statement like that. A lot of people don't know her name yet, but they're going to know her name. I mean, this is a women's flyweight division fight. You don't see a lot of big KOs in this division. You see them from time to time, but not often. Right now, she's 6-0, but she's taken on a Brazilian, and I'm always reluctant to go against the Brazilians. Fernandez, 9-3. So let's get into this fight right now. In the women's flyweight division at UFC Macau, you got Wang Kong taking on Gabriela Fernandez. Highly interesting fight. Now, Kong comes in at 6-0. Fernandez, 9-3. China versus Brazil. And you know the Chinese are going to be heavily supporting Kong. But keep in mind, Brazilians do well on the road. Both fighters 5'6". Kong 32. Fernandez 31. I like that. They're both right in the prime. Kong 1-inch reach advantage. They both fight southpaw or left-handed. Wang Kong so far, just in 6 fights, right? Well, fewer than that here in the UFC. Over 7 significant strikes per minute to Fernandez at 3.7 per minute. Takedown game heavily favors Wang Kong, over 1 takedown per round. Fernandez getting like 1 every 5. So let's dive into Fernandez takedown defense, just 59%. So that's going to be a problem. Wang Kong is coming off back-to-back wins over Victoria Leonardo by first-round KO. So came into the UFC no problem, won easily, and beat Paula Luna at Road to UFC by submission. Fernandez takedown defense, again, 59%. Beat Carly Judice in her last fight, but just by a split decision, lost to Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Jasudavicius. 2 decent fighters. But listen, if Wang Kong is as good as we think she is, and I hate to go against Brazilians, you know that, but she's going to be at home. Major support. She's undefeated, and she could be a rising fighter for China. So look for them to heavily support her, obviously, fighting at home. But she should win this fight even at a neutral site. So I like Wang Kong to win and move to 7-0. Women's flyweight division. UFC Macau. After the first round KO, I'm not going against Wang Kong, especially against Gabriela Fernandez. Now, she starts to work her way up in the division. She moves, moves up levels, it's going to get more interesting. But the UFC is doing the right thing by giving her this opponent at home, right? Let her win this fight, build herself up, build the name up. China's going to love it. And I don't think they care about the matchup. They just want to see their fighters win at home. But the Brazilians are known for surprising the home crowd. They have no problem going on the road and no problem beating the home crowd favorite. So keep an eye on that. But to me, Wang Kong is a different specimen. Please believe it. And you will see it on Saturday. Now in fight 3, you got Song Keenan, or Keenan Song, however you want to say it, taking on Muslim Salikov. This fight goes down in the welterweight division. Muslim Salikov almost a 2-1 favorite, but hold on a second, because Song Keenan can throw down. I mean, the guy's got 22 wins to Salikov's 20, so hold on a minute. Let's get into this prediction right now. In the welterweight division at UFC Macau, you got Song Keenan taking on Muslim Salikov, and this is bound to be a great welterweight fight. Very close in the odds. Keenan 22-8, Salikov 20-5. Song Keenan's 1 inch taller at 6 feet. He's 34. Muslim 40. He's getting up there. Song Keenan 2 inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Keenan's got the advantage in activity on the feet, over 4.5 significant strikes per minute to 3.3 for Muslim, so that's a problem. But Muslim can take the fight to the ground, landing about 1 takedown on average per 3 rounds. He's going to need 3 in this fight to win. Now, Song Keenan, 72% takedown defense. So even more so for Muslim Salikov, he's going to have to shoot for probably 10 takedowns here to get the dub. Keenan's come off the win against Ricky Glenn by decision. He lost to Kevin Jousset by decision and beat Rolando Bedova by decision. So in the Jousset fight, it was 134-62 against Song Keenan. Against Ricky Glenn, where he won, gave up 2 takedowns, but led 87-40 in significant strikes. Trailed against Rolando Bedoya, 112-75 in significant strikes, still got the win. So that's incredible. Now Muslim, 71% takedown defense. He beat Santiago Ponzinibbio by split decision because he had 2 takedowns. He trailed in significant strikes, but won because of the takedowns. Lost to 2 good fighters, Randy Brown by KO, first round, 3 minutes, 17 seconds, and Nicholas Dalby by decision. So this is a very interesting fight. I can see why the odds slightly favor Muslim, but to me, Song Keenan has an advantage on the feet. But the problem is Muslim Salikov beat Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's just a much higher level than Song Keenan is fighting, and he beat him, right? So I got to believe Salikov is going to come through here. Again, I get why he's a slight favorite. I like him to win by decision. Not quite sure how, though. He might lose in significant strikes, but have more takedowns. So, but he's just going to find a way to win. To move to 21-5 here, welterweight division, UFC Macau. Yeah, we tricked you a little bit. We like Muslim Salikov. I mean, the guy's just a better fighter. But again, Song Keenan is fighting at home. There's going to be that extra energy from the Chinese crowd that could carry an underdog to win a fight, especially a close fight that goes to a decision. So, look for Salikov to try to fight against that. But, I think it's going to be 1-1 going into the third. And that'll give Song Keenan a chance. So I expect the third round to be fire and to decide this fight for sure. But we still like Muslim Salikov to get the win. Now the next one is interesting. Co-main event, women's strawweight division. You got Yan Xiaonan, who cannot wait to fight in front of the home crowd. She's 18-4, taking on the always tough Tabitha Ricci, who has won 11 of 13 fights. She's 11-2 and Brazilian. So here we go again. I do not like to go against the Brazilians. I always take a hard look when the opponent is Brazilian. It doesn't matter if it's at home or on the road. So, let's get into this fight. Let's get into this fight right now. In the women's strawweight division at UFC Macau, co-main event, you got Yan Xiaonan taking on Tabitha Ricci. This is China versus Brazil, 18-4 versus 11-2. Yan Xiaonan, tall for a women's strawweight, at 5'5", 4 inches taller than the 5'1" Tabitha Ricci, but she's 35 years old, quickly getting up there in age. But in the women's divisions, 35, 36 seems to be closer to the prime. Tabitha Ricci, just 29 years old. Yan, 2-inch reach advantage, both stand right-handed. Yan lands 5 significant strikes per minute to 4.6 for Ricci. In terms of the takedown game, Ricci lands 1 on average per round. Yan gets 1 every 3. Yan, 62% takedown defense. So that's where the game is going to be played for Tabitha Ricci in the takedown game. But Yan is a bad woman. She did lose to Zhang Weili by decision in the last fight. Got outstruck 106-43, gave up 6 takedowns, not a good look, but it was 5 rounds. Before that, she beat Jessica Andrade by KO. That's impressive. Mackenzie Dern, decision. So she beat 2 good fighters. Ricci beat Angela Hill by decision. Tisha Pennington by split decision. Lost to Lupi Godinez. That's all I need to see. Yan Xiaonan is on a different level. She should dominate this fight, but she's got to stop the takedowns. Keep the fight standing where she's got just a little bit of an advantage, right? They're both hovering around 5 significant strikes per minute, but Yan Xiaonan has had better competition. Tabitha Ricci gets a big fight here against her. If she can win this, she's going to jump up in the rankings, but Yan Xiaonan to me is too good. She used her length with the jabs and the kicks to keep Tabitha off of her. She'll probably give up a few takedowns. It's been a problem, but she still finds ways to outstrike her opponents more times than not. So I got no choice but to go with her. And against the Brazilian in this one, she'll win by decision. Remember, it's only 3 rounds. She'll win 2-1. On the judges' scorecards, move to 19-4. Women's strawweight division, UFC Macau. Yeah, so another tough fight to predict, going against the Brazilian again. I'm sure to pay for this in one of these 2 fights. But fight is in China. Yan Xiaonan is a bad woman, and I have no problem picking her to win this one in a week that we only got 3 weeks left. We really need a good night on this one because we're approaching 100 wins or plus 100 wins in the win column compared to losses. So every fight is important. Now, no fight is bigger this week than the main event. We sit 22-17 with 3 fights to go. The worst thing that could happen is we finish 22-20. The best thing that could happen is we finish 25-17. So all these predictions are very important, and I'm glad I did this prediction before the John Jones fight, so I don't add any pressure to the 3-fight win streak, because although we knew John Jones would win, we had to wait and see it happen. But he won. We picked right 3 weeks in a row, and we're looking to make it 4. Hopefully we can finish this year on a 6-fight win streak. But this is a huge fight. And let's get into the prediction right now. In the bantamweight division at UFC Macau, this is your main event. Petr Yan takes on Deiveson Figueiredo, and this is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Petr Yan desperately needs a win. He's 17-5. He's Russian. The Brazilian Figueiredo 24-3. Petr Yan's 2 inches taller at 5'7". He's just 31, right in the prime still. Hasn't looked like he's in his prime, but he's still in his prime. Figueiredo 36, he's starting to get up there a little bit. Figueiredo 1-inch reach advantage, he fights right-handed. Petr Yan is a switch stance fighter. Petr Yan lands 5.1 significant strikes per minute. That's a rapid pace. Figueiredo just 3 significant strikes per minute. Both guys land like a takedown every other round. Petr Yan, though, 85% takedown defense. Figueiredo just 58. That could be a problem. Petr Yan is coming off the win, so he does have a win under his belt in his last fight against Song Yadong. I almost forgot about that by decision, but it wasn't easy. Before that, he lost to Murad Dvalishvili, Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling. All 3 guys, champions or former champions. Figueiredo, 3 in a row. Marlon Vera, decision. Submission over Cody Garbrandt, and he beat Rob Font by decision. So this guy's starting to pick up the pace, right? Since he left the flyweight division, he's looked good. And guess what? I think he's going to win this one, right? I'm a little concerned with the significant strikes per minute. I'm a little concerned that he keeps, creeping up the bantamweight division. But, when a guy doesn't have to lose weight anymore and can still fight at a high level, he's very tough to beat. And that's the case here. And when fights are close, I'm going with the Brazilian, and I'm putting it all on the line because, we're 21-17. We'll have one fight before this one with John Jones and Stipe Miocic, but we need main event victories down the stretch here to round out 2024. So we're putting it on the line with Deiveson Figueiredo. I think he's going to do it with the takedown game. The numbers don't favor him anywhere here, but the sheer heart will get him over the top, and the fact that a lot of times when fights are close, Brazilians tend to win them, right? They tend to win them. So I'm not going against Figueiredo here, especially when he's 24-3. I like him to get the dub here in the bantamweight division at UFC Macau. Yeah, and another thing I'm nervous about is the fact that Petr Yan needs a win. He suffered several losses in a row. Over the last few years, getting to the top and then having to take on some of the best in the division, and he struggled. Sean O'Malley, who won the title, then lost it to Merab. He has just struggled. And this is a fight he's got to win against a guy in Figueiredo that continues to rise through the bantamweight division. And it's almost like he's destined to get a title fight at some point. But he's got to keep winning. And every time you creep up to a higher number, in this case, Petr Yan, it only gets tougher. But I expect Figueiredo to continue winning, and I truly expect him to get a title fight at some point in time. He's a former champ. He's gone into this division. He's looked extremely well. And if he can keep winning, he's going to get a title fight. That's the bottom line. That's a wrap for today's show. Now, got into all the top 5 fights this week, so they're going to be highly interesting. We look forward to it. It's going to kick off early in the morning. So stay tuned. We'll be there for that. For now, this is your boy Chris Cross. Hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always,